Hello and welcome to SmartReach podcast series. In this series of podcast, we'll be talking with industry leaders about various aspects of sales these days. So today in our first podcast, we are going to discuss how multi-channel has made a difference and helped sales teams in boosting their sales pipeline. So today in our first podcast, we have our guest speaker as Sabah. Hey Sabah, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on your show. Happy to share some wisdom and knowledge with your audience.
Great, great. So let me give some brief about Sabah. Sabah is an accomplished SDR with expertise in outbound sales strategies and crafting effective sales messages. Sabah has consistently exceeded individual sales quotas for 3 consecutive quarters and contributed to the team in exceeding quarter one, quarter two, and quarter three of 2023 and 2022. Sabah currently leads a team of 9 SDRs and is highly focused on training them, measuring their results, problem solving, and coaching them to ensure that they hit the quota consistently every time. Sabah comes from Deckrobot, which is a generative AI tool which helps consulting giants like PwC, Deloitte by designing hundreds of their PowerPoint slides in just one click, saving time on PowerPoint mundane type of tasks. So, Sabah, do you want to share some more insights about you?
Thank you for such a great introduction. You said pretty much everything. Like started as a SDR, and obviously build my career. Into more leadership role, and I'm happy to share some of let's say first-hand experience that I've gained throughout my journey. And hopefully you will like my story, and you will resonate with my story, and hopefully get some feedback from you and improve myself, because it's really about improving. It's never constant, and this curiosity over being right is what's really driving the success in SDR job, I would say.
Okay. Yeah,
So yeah.
definitely. So, Sabah, let's start off by, how did you start your journey towards, sales leadership, like from SDR to an SDL? How was it for you?
Yeah, actually, it's a great question to start with. First thing first, really, I started off as an SDR, right? I like being in trenches with my team and leading by example. I think that's the great approach for leadership. My approach was really about consistency. I was obviously never best with cold calling. I was not best with crafting sales messages. Obviously not best with my LinkedIn outreach. I almost had no personal brand there, and I was not active on LinkedIn. So I was really not like the best guy in the team. But like consistency is something that really set me apart from other SDRs. And I think that's the secret, just building your pipeline day by day, hitting your numbers day by day, sending certain number of emails and doing cold calls on a daily basis, sending LinkedIn connection requests. All those things doing day by day really sets you apart from the rest of the team. And I think that's really my success, being a top performer and consistently hitting targets, what earns you a promotion. And this is how my leadership journey started. Leading by example, being really there. And I'm still really, I like being in trenches with my team. So now I can do on-the-job coaching as I understand the challenges my SDR team is facing. I think this is important, and this is what really puts me in a good situation that I can really lead by example. I think, I answered at least some part of your question.
Yeah. Consistency is definitely the key to anything, And
Yeah.
I believe, that's what has helped you a lot in transitioning your career throughout this. So, Sabah, I'm also like interested to know that from SDR to SDL, you've come a long way, right?
Yeah.
And you might have seen a lot of things, coming up in the sales world, right? So I want to understand that in the early days when sales was just developing, there were not much techniques, right? So there were very limited channels available. So I want to understand that in the earlier days, how did you like manage, like what channels did you use and
Yeah.
how effective those channels were to you? And you can talk about the challenges that you had with those channels.
Yeah, that's another great question. I mean, as we know, in tech sales is probably the fastest growing industry, and we know like what used to work like 6 months ago or maybe a year ago might not work today. So this is like going back to my initial state, like curiosity over being right. You really don't have to know everything. You don't have to really be always right, but you have to be curious, right? You need to keep testing. So going back to your question, I remember like some mid last year, we were like starting using only automated emails, right? With no personalization, So our open rate back then was kind of good. It was probably around 60%. But then we had like a low reply rate, which is kind of, doesn't feel good when you have so many people opening your emails, but then you don't have like replies. So there is some obviously issue, and you need to check what's going on. Is it that maybe your sales messages don't resonate with your audience, or maybe you are adding wrong leads into your sequences? There might be all kinds of issues. But then, so there was really no personalization back then. And then we started using more LinkedIn, and I realized my personal brand was not there and I needed to improve, so that was in enterprise sales, we are fortunate enough that our prospects are maybe not always active on LinkedIn, but at least they are there. So, sending LinkedIn connections and, trying to do more LinkedIn outreach makes sense for us, because our ICP and personas were really like there on the LinkedIn. And I remember back then, we had only one US guy who was like doing cold calling, and other folks, other guys from SDR team were not doing cold calling. And then some 5-6 months ago, we started doing cold calling, all of us. We crafted our first cold calling script. We've done several mock calls, workshops. So we kind of improved over time, because, cold calling is usually, it's really as human as it gets, because, the prospect gets to hear your tone, and you get a response from the prospect right there on the phone, right? Is he interested or is he not interested? So it's really as human as it gets. And so I think we started doing more LinkedIn outreach. And yes, lately we've been doing way more cold calling. And I guess slowly we are moving to a multi-channel approach, which is probably the most successful approach that one SDR can use.
But definitely, cold calling has its perks. The one whom you are calling out to, they get to know about your tone, what you're talking about. But there are also specific challenges, right? Like people, they don't even bother to pick up the call and speak to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Speaking about challenges, there is no single perfect channel. That's why we use multi-channel, because if one channel is not performing well, you might have a more luck on the other channel. And I'm sure we will be talking more about multi-channel, because I support multi-channel 100%. Going back to some of the challenges, yes, you are right. With the cold calling, it's a really simply math one-on-one. It's a really simple math and simply calculation. You probably need around 100 cold calls to book one meeting. So if, let's say, your weekly target is like 5 meetings a week, you have to do like 500 calls to get those 500 meetings. So it's really math one-on-one. It's simply, it's a more like a number game. It's not something you can do with 10 or 20 cold calls, because, out of 100 calls, you probably get 7-8% connect rate. So out of 100 calls, 7-8 people maybe pick up the phone. So you get to talk with only 7-8 people. And out of those 7-8 people, you probably get 1% success rate, which is, like 100 calls, you get 7-8 people on the call and you book one meeting. So those are very clear calculations. Cold calling, Not all SDRs are comfortable with cold calling. We know that most of our SDRs, the English is not their natural language, which means there are some things they need to adapt. Obviously, we at that time we had no script and we didn't do much mock calls, and so SDRs were not really comfortable doing cold calling, and they would avoid because it really takes lots of energy out of you, and you need to make those time blocks in your calendar. Like if you're gonna do like 1 hour time blocks for cold calling in the morning, and you're gonna do another 1 hour like late afternoon, because those are two best, let's say, most ideal times for calling your prospects. And you know, if you are gonna call US guys, you obviously have to adjust to their time zones, not yours, which gives additional challenges. And yeah, going back to emails, we know that email deliverability has become a hot subject lately. More and more cold emails are landing in the spam, not in the mailbox. So you can really craft the best sales message, but if that message does not go in the inbox of your prospect, then it seems like a waste of time. And you know, prospects, they report your emails as spam. So there are many things you have to consider, and I'm sure we will be talking about what it takes, what are some steps that can improve your email deliverabilities. And also another challenge with the emails, it's a low reply. I remember our reply is probably around 2-3%, which is a bit frustrating, to be very honest with you. You send so many emails, you try to personalize them, you really pick and select the best leads that should really fit within your ICP criteria. You get their emails, you verify those emails, you bounce test them, you do all this kind of heavy lifting work. You send out those emails, and then you get like 2, maybe 3% reply rate, which is very low. And so it's time consuming. And we know with the emails, it takes time. Our email sequence has probably 7-8 steps. We start with a cold email, the first email, and then we usually have 3-4 follow-up emails, along with other multi-channel channel tasks that we will be discussing later on. And then you get like 2-3% reply rate. So there are challenges. Every channel has its own drawbacks, but there are also some advantages. And with the cold outreach, you really want to try out all channels, and at the end of the day, you will get result, but you just need consistency, what we mentioned from the beginning, right?
Right. So the major challenge that you talked about, like cold emailing, is getting into spam and getting very low reply rates, right? So what do you think that, what specific challenges related to cold emailing has affected your deliverables, and how did you work on that? So, what are the steps that you took so that, your cold emails, you could be more specific, that your cold
emails... Let me try to be as specific as possible. So there are really probably several steps that you can do to improve your email deliverability. Like one is, we usually start with a short subject line. It should be maximum 3 words. It should be short, simple, and catchy. I believe the better subject line you have, the open rate really can improve dramatically. Always do A/B testing with your subject line. At the same time, do A/B testing with your email body, because you wanna check. You really wanna pick the winner one. You never know what is the subject line or email body that really resonates with your audience. So you always wanna do A/B testing with the email body. Try to shorten your email body. I usually say keep it like 3 sentences, not 3 paragraphs. So you really want to keep it short. Usually within the first email, we try to avoid images, attachments, signatures, links. So we keep it plain text only. And we try to really avoid any spammy words, and pretty much don't use primarily domain for cold emails, because it can really damage your domain reputation. So you really want to have like several domains. So those are some of the things that you can use to improve your email deliverability. And personalization. your first mail is you really have to like use it as a manual step. You know how we create the sequence, and pretty much all our emails are sent automated, right? From the first and then the follow-ups one. The first one should be really set as a manual step so that you can really work on it. We usually check the LinkedIn profile of our prospect, see if there are any changes, maybe some posts that persona has been commented lately, or maybe posts that he or she writes that you can relate, maybe some career progression or changing in titles or position for this guy, anything that can kind of add value and bring more personalization into emails. So by personalizing, by avoiding spammy words and really keep simply email, not too long, with probably light call to action. We even avoid call to action in our first email, but instead we ask for interest. We ask, is it relevant for you and your team? We are not asking you, do you have 20 minutes for a demo call next week? But first, we are asking you for relevancy. Is this relevant for you? So this is what I call more like a soft call to action rather than like call to action with a really pitch. So those are some of the things that we can all kind of improve so as to improve our email deliverability as well. Because if open rate are low, like 20% or less, you really need to check your domain. There is something going on, you know. And as I mentioned earlier, the email deliverability has become a hot subject, and more and more cold emails are landing in spam. And once again, you know, somehow, I mean, it feels like a waste of time when you really pick your best leads that are really great fit for your ICP, and then you do all this work. You know, you find these leads, you prepare the lead lists, you prepare the email addresses, you verify those emails, you do everything, and then you send out those emails, and you know, they don't go to the mailbox. They end up in the spam. So it's like, it's a really waste of time. You are not getting results from there. So that's why email deliverability has to be addressed strategically within the company, and you need to monitor your open rates, click rates, replies rates every single day. And we do understand that open rates are not accurate because there are certain screeners that can screen images that you might get distractions that the emails are being opened, but in reality, they might not be opened. So it's not like 100% accurate anymore, but at least it gives you some indication. You know, if you have like 60-70% open rates, at least you have a pretty good idea that your emails are going in the mailbox, right? Some people are opening your email, and it's great percentage of people, you know, so that kind of puts you in a you know, good position to understand that at least your emails are going through.
Right. So I can say the major challenge with people who are relying on only cold emails is that, to just sum up, they are missing out on a lot of opportunities because of getting into spam, or you know, their emails are not even being delivered. I've also like heard from a lot of sales leaders that their emails are getting blocked from providers. So what's your call on that? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we keep talking about email deliverability and challenges, and I mean, this is obviously a very pressing problem that all SDRs have, and that's why we keep discussing this issue. Yeah, for example, you know, going to spam with Gmail accounts that are not going through, you know. So we do have some prospects that are using Outlook, Microsoft Outlook, and we are doing our cold outreach through Gmail domain, right? Using Gmail accounts for our SDRs and for cold outreach. And sometimes they don't sync together. So we've been noticing recently, whenever we are sending, let's say, cold emails from our primarily Gmail accounts, trying to land in Outlook mailbox, they don't they don't go to mailbox, but rather they go to spam. So, you know, again, you want to avoid spam at all costs. So what we are doing, we are adding Outlook accounts to our cold outreach. So we are trying now to really do outreach using both domains, Gmail and Outlook. So this might be one of the way, you know, how you want to kind of overcome these challenges. And as I mentioned before, do not use your primary email domain for cold outreach, because, you know, you don't do only cold outreach, but you do send follow-up emails and you send other proposals for prospects, and you use it in everyday business communication. So if you damage your domain reputation, then it's really hard to go back at the right track, because, you know, warming up really requires time. You know, you cannot really warm up your accounts in like within the days. Usually that's what you know, my leadership, when we have this issue, they expect things to get back normal in 3-4 days. And, you know, really warming up accounts probably requires 4 or 5 weeks, you know, and you cannot really send at a high volume. So we start increasing emails gradually, day by day. So if you have like a fresh email accounts, you probably want to start sending 3 to 5 emails a day, and then slowly increasing to 7, then 10, maybe 15, 20, and all this requires time, right? And usually we don't have time. So that is why we have to be very careful. You wanna be very careful. You wanna protect your email accounts and your company domain. And that is why using maybe multiple domains would make more sense. So if you damage your domain reputation on one, you can rely for several weeks on the other one until you kind of improve the one that's been damaged, you know. So those are kind of things that you can like juggle around a little bit, but, you know, keep the traction going. You never want to stop, you know. You don't want to stop your outreach, not for a single day. You know, I mentioned when we started this discussion today with the consistency, and I need to go back to consistency. One thing that separated me, maybe even my SDR team, apart from other SDR team, is really consistency. We never stop building pipeline. This is one thing we never gonna do. If there is an issue with the email at the moment, obviously we will increase our LinkedIn outreach and we will start doing more cold calls, but we are not stopping. Because you know what? Once you stop for a day or 2 days or maybe a week, your outreach, and you stop building your pipeline, guess what? In like several weeks or next month, there's going to be 0 meetings on the calendar, right? And that's it. There is no other recipe. There is no way you're going to stop building pipeline and the meetings will stop coming on the calendar. That's not going to happen, you know. So that is why overcoming those challenges fast, immediate reaction with a clear action steps, that's something you need to do. You know, we had this email deliverability issue a couple of weeks ago. My team was having a very low open rate. We realized it's an issue with our domain. It was damaged. And we understand what are the reasons. So all these steps, higher personalization, A/B testing, short subject line, avoiding any images, anything that can appear as spammy. We incorporated all these elements in order to improve email deliverability, and now it's slowly improving. But again, it's slowly improving. It's not going to happen overnight. In the meantime, we are more focused on LinkedIn outreach and cold calling. As we are adding the new domains, as I mentioned, we are starting with the Outlook. At the same time, we are warming up our Gmail account. So starting next week, I really hope we can do full-scale email outreach again. I hope this was clear enough, but yeah, there are so many challenges, and once again, email deliverability has become a hot subject, and it needs to be addressed in one strategic manner. It's not something that you should just spray and pray, as we say, because once you really damage your email domain, it's gonna take weeks or even months to
Right.
come back at the same level, and you don't really want to lose momentum. Especially, we know the Q4 is approaching. We are now around mid-September, and we know that the following 2 or 3 months are really good ones in terms of sales activities, and you really want to have all your channels available so that you can hit some numbers and obviously get more qualified meetings in the calendar.
Right. So, yes, we discussed the challenges that people basically face with primitive or, using limited channels like cold emails and cold calls. I will give you a 5-minute breather. I'll tell you that how SmartReach is here to help out people, to solve these problems and help people in these challenges. So I'll just quickly share my screen.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So So SmartReach offers a great approach for solving these challenges for single channel or limited channel type of outreaches. So let's see that based on our discussion and also on the market research, the major problem that people face when they are using a single channel outreach is low response rates, personalization gaps. There is definitely personalization gaps because you're still cold with a prospect. You're like either calling them or you're just emailing them. They don't know about you. And the third thing is getting into spam filter traps, that we could discuss about it all day, right? And
Yes.
just to sum up, like, there is only one solution to all this problem, and that is multi-channel. So let's discuss.
Always multi-channel. Always multi-channel.
Right. So with low response rates, if you're having low response rates, you can reach out to prospects across various channels. So if email is not working, people might not be checking their emails because they have a lot of stuff coming in from a lot of people, right? So you use a different channel. You either contacted them on LinkedIn, or you can even touch base on WhatsApp, and you can connect with the clients. You can connect with your prospects, which will eventually help you in getting better response rates. Might be positive or negative, but at least you are getting a response because of having multiple touch points. You get, then later you get a clear approach in your in your channels that you're using, that which channel is performing best for you. Is it emails, is it LinkedIn, is it WhatsApp, or calls, right? So you get a clear visibility there. The second thing about personalization gaps, while you are engaging with your contacts on various channels, definitely you are filling the personalization gaps. So let's say, if I'm emailing you today, you don't know me, but if the next day you are getting a connection request from me on LinkedIn, it will click your mind that, hey, I got an email from this guy yesterday.
Yeah.
Let me see that what it does, what this guy does, what his company does. So it helps you it helps you in building a soft trust with with your prospect, and which helps you in better engagement, right? And also, there are tasks manager that easily SmartReach provides. Tasks manager that, on day 1 you send a cold email, on day 2 you simply did a LinkedIn view profile. Let's say on day 4 you want to do a cold call, you have that in a task. You just simply go ahead and run that task, and you are calling that customer, you're talking to that customer, and you might close a good deal from that. And finally, coming to the spam filter gaps, the first thing is lower dependency on one channel. Even if your emails are landing into the spam, you have a lot of other channels. You have cold emails, you have LinkedIn, you have WhatsApp. Just you go ahead and start contacting people on LinkedIn until you get your email stuff fixed. So here's where we are talking about consistency, right? Even if we are blocked on spam related problems on email, you are still active on LinkedIn, you're still active on cold calls, you're consistent building your pipeline, moving forward with your pipeline, right? And SmartReach helps you in providing end-to-end LinkedIn automation. So even if you're blocked on cold emails, you can't do cold emails, come to SmartReach. You can completely automate your sales outreach on LinkedIn.
So you guys provide full automation on LinkedIn.
That's right. We provide both. We provide semi-automation as well as full automation on
Right.
LinkedIn. Because
Sounds great.
yeah, because few people, they want to like have a pretty much personalized way, a bit more funnelized way of contacting their prospects. They want to look into each prospects deeply. So that's where semi-automation helps. But if you
Yes.
have a large
Yes.
list, right, and you're pretty confident that even if you want to run automation on this list, your prospecting is pretty good, you can go ahead and run automation and get those results.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Yeah, you can follow playbooks as well. You can create your playbook within SmartReach. Like, you send an opening email first, you send a LinkedIn view profile, you do another follow-up, you send a connection request, you call them, you send an SMS to them, you send a WhatsApp text. That's how it works, right? So I
Nice.
hope your playbook could be like pretty similar to what
Actually, it is. I can say a little bit more about my playbook, but it's somewhere there, So I guess we can discuss more.
Right.
But
So Sabah, I am really interested to understand that since you said that previously you were using cold calls and emails, what was the point, in your business? What was going in your company when you decided that, hey, it's the high time now. I should bring in multi-channel. I should contact people on LinkedIn. What made you think of that?
I mean, in enterprise sales, it really takes 7 to 12 touch points on a multi-channels to get response from your prospect. Respond either being positive one or negative one. You are obviously looking for any kind of response, and it really takes from 7 to 12 touch points. So for us, there was really never question whether we should or we should not use a multi-channel approach. As you said earlier, like if one channel is not working, the other might be working just fine. Example, as I mentioned, we had this issue with emails landing in spam. And, we are changing our domains. We're going to start using multiple domains. We will be warming up our accounts. And all these are taking times, but we don't really want to stop our outreach. And then the only thing we can really do to rely more on other channels, and you mention it right there, it's cold calling, it's a LinkedIn, and those channels are really working well. So a multi-channel approach is really something that was really never our concern, or we never had this dilemma whether or not we're going to use a multi-channel, because if you remember the famous quote by Warren Buffett, the famous US millionaire, when he said, don't put all your eggs in one basket, and I like this quote because you really never want to rely on one channel, because if that one channel was working well for you like 6 months ago, it doesn't mean that it will work well like today. Going back to our email deliverability challenges that we were discussing previously, like 6 months ago, like all emails were really going to mailbox, and you really didn't have to worry much about domain reputation or whether you are really going to mailbox or you are landing in spam. But nowadays, that's number one concern for every SDR leader. Are you going to the mailbox? So that is why using multi-channel is really, you don't want to keep all your eggs in one basket, and you don't want to put all your risk on one channel, because if something happens, if something goes wrong, there are other channels that can compensate for these loss and still bring you some results, and you can even hit your monthly quota by using other channels and maybe eliminating for the time being the other channels, right? So that is why the importance of multi-channel was there, and the tipping point for us was really about just not really placing all risk on one single channel.
Right.
I hope this was clear enough why and when did this tipping point really happen in our case in Deckrobot.
It's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
So after, when you implemented multi-channel, you said that you do a lot of LinkedIn stuff. Like, apart from LinkedIn or cold emails, do you involve other channels as well?
Yeah. I mean, there are other channels. Yeah, we talked about emails, we talked about LinkedIn, we talked about obviously cold calling, right? We do things like video prospecting. We do more like voice prospecting. I believe that video prospecting and voice prospectings are getting more popular recently because there are so many outreach stuff going on. Like you have prospects. I just spoke with one prospect a couple of weeks ago, and he said to me that he's getting around 100 emails, cold emails on a daily basis, and that he really gets to read like 5-6, the most important ones.
Right.
And now imagine what it takes that you are one of those 5-6 the most important emails that your prospect's gonna read. I mean, you really have to be a superhero. You need to, you need to personalize in such a to such a high degree. But this is not always this is really not always possible. But lately, one thing that can really make you stand out from the crowd is really voice prospecting, because it's really more human, right? Prospects get to hear your voice and tonality, and then can maybe resonate with your message at a more personal level. And the same thing goes with video prospecting. They don't just get to hear your voice and tonality, but they also get to see you, just like you and me are looking at each other right now. And I think it's way more personalized this way and more humanized, which kind of brings more results. So it's not, we only talk about 3 main channels, and that's fine. But I think there are some extensions on the existing channels, such as video and voice prospecting, that can really make you stand out from the crowd.
Right. Got it. So it's evolving right now, video and voice prospecting. Let's just stick to LinkedIn, cold calls, and SMS and WhatsApp right now. So tell me one thing. I understand that everyone is contacting the prospects on multiple channels, right? How do you deal with prospect fatigue? So let's say there different people might have different type of mindsets, right? If let's say if I am a bit skeptical, I might see you like you are spamming me on multiple places, and that could make that prospect fatigue. So how do you overcome with that challenge?
This is, I would probably say, a $1 million question. Probably, we are now discussing like the biggest mystery maybe in SDR job. It's not easy. It's a challenge, and it requires creativity, right? Sticking to the same outbound strategies day by day might not be the wisest thing to do. That is why, going back to my previous statement when I said curiosity over being right, you don't need to be right, you don't need to know everything, but you need to be curious, and you need to keep this curiosity and creativity. We mentioned like not all channels are performing the same, but not all accounts are the same, right? You might have a success with one account, and it seems that prospects within that account are all opening emails, they are reading your emails, and they are even responding to your emails. But then you have other accounts that have like that you get zero response rate. So you need to be creative, and you need to be ready to adjust. Going back to your previous question regarding the prospect fatigue, it's probably you cannot appear as spammy and desperate salesperson, right? You need to balance your steps in cadence and make immediate follow-ups for high engaging prospects. So if you see your prospect that is opening your email 2-3 times and you still get no response from this guy, you wanna call this guy in the first half an hour. That's why I said you need to immediately follow up. The follow up, it's really about the timing. if you wait like a couple of hours or even worse, couple of days, the follow-up will not bring you results. But and you are right, you cannot just keep chasing your prospects on all these different channels if they don't find your message relevant to them, or if it is not personalized enough. They can always report your emails as spam, and that's gonna affect your company domain, going back to our previous concerns about email deliverability. So you are absolutely right there. You cannot appear as spammy. You cannot really be salesy all the time, be desperate salesman who really needs to make his month's quota so as to make some bonus at the end of the month or quarter, right? But instead, you really need to balance carefully your steps within the cadence. I saw your steps that you have like a first email opener, then you have a LinkedIn, then you have a call task. I do the same. We can probably discuss a little bit more about that, but then you want to really start following up and maybe push a little bit more only those prospects that show some kind of interest. I call them high engaging prospects, the prospects that are really reading your emails, and you can clearly see that your emails are being opened and most probably viewed and read. And they accept your LinkedIn connection request, so we call them high engaging prospects, and we treat them differently, which means we take those prospects from one sequence and we replace them to the second sequence that we usually call that second one high intent sequence, high engaging sequence. We are placing all prospects that are showing high interest to our product, and we keep treating them differently. Mm-hmm. So you see, we start making differences between the prospects that show no interest or little interest to those that are kind of showing high interest in our product or our solution. So this is how we are trying to avoid this prospect fatigue, because you really don't want to appear as spammy and desperate.
Okay. So, fine. We spoke about this as well. We spoke about the challenges with email. But even though, you've brought in multi-channel, you've added LinkedIn as your another channel, LinkedIn has its specific limits. So what are your ways, how do you tackle the LinkedIn limits? Because at the end of the day, LinkedIn will also block your accounts. So
absolutely the same way that goes with email deliverability, there are some concerns with LinkedIn. You cannot just be sending connection requests without really worrying about limits and other restrictions. So building personal brand and probably increasing your social selling index, which is really the way that LinkedIn ranks you as a LinkedIn user, is probably a good way to go. Limit, we know that LinkedIn weekly limit is around 100, but if you have a good, let's say, social selling index, if you are active on LinkedIn, if you post regularly, if you educate your audience, if you write first-hand experience posts, you can probably send 150 or 200 LinkedIn connection requests without really having any restrictions from LinkedIn. So it's really about, being active on LinkedIn and building personal brand. It's very important. And usually when people ask me why do I think that personal brand is so important, I usually ask them one question, like, if Elon Musk wrote you a message, would you respond to that message? So that's a question for you. If Elon Musk wrote you a message, Ashton, would you respond?
Definitely, I will. Because
and it doesn't have to do with Elon Musk.
Uh-huh.
The person that is sending you a message is not stranger to you.
Right.
And that is why you want to respond, right? If you are to send me a message now, Ashton, I would probably respond to any of your messages, right? Because I know you. You are not stranger to me.
Right.
So we do want to interact. We do want to have conversations, but with people that are not strangers to us. So the same way, you don't have to be Elon Musk. That's a good thing. We don't have to be Elon Musk, right? But building personal brand, you really want to make sure that prospects know you before you even reach out to them.
Okay.
I think that's the main idea of building your personal brand. Making sure your prospects know you before you even reach out to them. So when you finally reach out to them and you have some, let's say, business proposal for them, obviously some kind of sales pitch, right? They tend to respond to you because they know you. You are not stranger to them. So I would probably say even the limit is 100. Yeah, for the users that are not so active on LinkedIn, the users that are maybe just now considering building their personal brand on LinkedIn, they should definitely stick to LinkedIn connection limits 100. They can even go a little bit below 100. So for new SDRs, we usually keep around 80 LinkedIn invites per week. And as you grow your audience on LinkedIn, as you build your personal brand, as you are kind of your activity, overall activity on LinkedIn increases, you can probably go to 120, 150. We have some SDRs that even send 200 LinkedIn connection requests with no restrictions. So probably those are some of the ways, building your personal brand, checking your social selling index, like on a monthly basis. You don't need to check social selling index more often than that, because it doesn't really improve like over a week or two. It takes some more time, and I don't want to spend more time discussing what social selling index. I wrote, if anybody wants to know more, I wrote some posts about this a couple of weeks ago, so you can find my profile. I talk in more details about social selling index and other things that are important for LinkedIn outreach. But yeah, basically that's it. I usually try really to bring some value to my prospects before really going with a sales pitch. That's the most important. Then, they know Srba is not a stranger. And whenever I'm asking for something, they tend to reply, I believe I have acceptance rate and reply rate way higher than other SDR folks.
Yeah, this is like the information from you is really effective and quite helpful. And I too feel that, personal reputation is really important. You don't want to be Elon Musk, but at least you want the mass of people to know about you, about your company, what you do, and that's really gonna help. So we got to know about a bunch of stuff that you've did, and about all your experience to it. Now we want to know. I personally want to know. Can you give me an example of a big deal, or a big closing that you have done with the help of Multichannel, that if Multichannel wasn't there, you couldn't have got that deal?
Oh yeah, that's a nice question. You made me laugh because there are so many obviously good examples, and that's really what make SDR jobs so special, because one day you feel bad about your performers, you are getting no replies from your prospects, and you somehow feel that this is not job good for you, this is not for me, I should never go to tech sales in the first place. You feel good about yourself, and then the day after you wake up one morning and you see like 3-4 like LinkedIn messaging saying sounds great, let's have a call next week. And all of a sudden you are a hero. You are like, from being desperate and maybe thinking to give up, one day you wake up and you have like 3-4 calls like waiting for you, all of a sudden. And that is why importance of multi-channel. When you sleep, you do some automation, right? And we can talk more, and SmartReach is really one of the multi-channel automation tools. So even sometimes when you are in bed sleeping, some things are going on the other side, and you are like, when you wake up, there are some like meeting requests pending, so it's always good for you. So the prospects reply, on LinkedIn, but their attention was caught on LinkedIn or through your email sequencer. When you mention, even though you finally get a response from your prospect on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you were warming up this prospect on the emails, right?
Right.
Through your email sequencer, because you were sending the first email, you got no response. Then there was the second email, maybe 2 or 3 days later, again, there was no response. Then there was the second follow-up email, another 2-3 days later, there was no response. At the same time, you are using multi-channel, going back to the importance of multi-channel. You are doing the same on your LinkedIn. You send connection requests. Hopefully, the prospect will accept your connection request. Then you start sending messages.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, you get a response, let's say on the LinkedIn. And we have this question in our CRM tool. It says, what's the source? What channel did bring you the meeting, right? What's the source of your meeting? And usually you click LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow it appears that the most effective channel by far is LinkedIn. But in reality, that might not be the case, because sometimes it's easier for prospects to reply on LinkedIn. You know, they are lying at their bed, maybe watching TV at, I don't know, 8-9 p.m. at the evening, and they have their mobile phones in the hands. It's easier to reply on LinkedIn, even though they got to know you through your emails that they were going week before. And on every other day, there was a new email popping up in their mailbox from your email sequencer. So that's why it's always good. And even when we do cold calling, we say, I had no luck trying to reach you via email, so I figure I should give you a call, right? So you are relying on those emails, even though the prospect never replied. Right. You are not a stranger. He was reading your emails. The same way goes on the LinkedIn. But going back to your previous question, like what really made me, like the game-changing deal using a multi-channel. I mean, as I said, there are many good examples, but like I remember there was this guy from US. I won't mention the account name, right? But there was this guy from US, and he replied on my email saying that he gets like 40-50 emails like every day, and he never really opens any. But mine caught his attention as I was familiar to him on the LinkedIn. So imagine this, the guy who gets 50, sometimes even 100 or more than 100 cold emails every single day. Right. I got his attention. He eventually opened my email and replied to my email. But the success came from my LinkedIn activity because I was familiar to him on the LinkedIn. So you see why I post regularly, why I try to bring some value to my audience. Often I send them some service, some reports, maybe interesting newsletters, so I keep my prospects engaged. And when the time is right, they will finally respond. So this US guy responded to me, and one of my account executives obviously took this call, and it was converted to SQL as well. And this guy said to my account executive on the call, he said, I get so many emails on a daily basis. I pretty much don't read my emails. But this guy, whatever his name was, Srba is sometimes hard to pronounce, right? The name is not so easy to pronounce. He said, that guy, I just loved his email. It was so personalized. It was so great. And you know what? I know him from LinkedIn. He keeps posting some things. I don't like all this content that he keeps bringing, but he's interested. I like reading them. And eventually, I booked the meeting with the guy. It was converted to SQL, and we are really in the final stage. I believe we are signing the deal in weeks to come. So maybe this was one fresh example that I could share with you.
Great. That's really exciting to know, and I'm pretty sure people will definitely see value after engaging with LinkedIn and following what you suggest. So can you quickly, we are reaching to the last question of our session today. So our viewers might be interested, to know that what playbook you follow. What's your playbook? When do you send a LinkedIn request? How do you follow? What's your strategy? If you can shed some light on it.
If there is one thing that, as we are coming towards an end, if there is one thing that I need to point out, like people ask me what is like the most important thing when you are doing outreach and, the outbound sales strategies, it's really going back to consistency. And I really have to say this again, you don't have to be the best with cold calling. You don't have to be best with crafting sales messaging, but you really have to be consistent, sending your numbers. And probably it goes first, you need quantity. So you need to build your pipeline and then you can worry about quality later on. But if you are a new SDR, just starting with your new SDR role, you don't really have to worry much about quality. Yes, you want to try to pick the best leads possible and you really want to go after accounts that best resonate with your solution. But don't worry so much about quality. Obviously, you don't have all the knowledge, you don't have all the expertise, so some things are still kind of, you are in the process of learning. But the quantity is what matters. Keep building your pipeline day by day, and with this volume, obviously the quality will start coming out. So that's one thing. Going back to Playbook, there are many rules. I would probably say if you have 3+ open emails, immediately call the guy, right? You have 30 minutes to follow up, as I mentioned earlier. So if you see your prospect is opening your email, don't wait for him or her to reply like for days. If you don't get a reply, but that person keeps opening your emails, give him a call immediately. Give him a call because he's a high engaging prospect and it's most likely that he's very much interested in your solution. So give him a call and ask him directly on the call, hey Mark, I saw you were reading my emails. Just wanted to bring more context on this call, and hopefully you'll be able to book your meeting for the next Tuesday, 2 p.m. or whatever the timing might be. And as I mentioned, sometimes we use these low engaged prospects and high engaged prospects. So we have this first sequence for all our leads, and then when we see that some leads are kind of engaging more, we try to move them to the second sequence. We call this high engaged prospect sequence, where we are maybe sending more steps within shorter time span because we want to get immediately yes or no from the prospect. Okay. So there are many playbooks, but don't overthink much. Don't overthink, just use consistency. Just use consistency, build your pipeline day by day, and you will be successful for sure. I see people that are great with their outbound, but they are not consistent. And also I see some people that are just about average, but they keep building their pipeline day by day. And these other dudes that are more consistent, at the end of the day, they seem to be more successful than the guys that seems to be better in what they are doing, because the consistency will in a long run, it will pay off for sure.
Great to know about that, Sabah. So thank you so much for your time today. It was a wonderful session. If I sum up the complete session today, what I learned and what others should also learn is to be consistent. Use multi-channel, be consistent, and just make your personal brand. That's the most important thing in.
Absolutely. Be consistent. Always use multi-channel approach, because one channel is not enough. Even if you are getting all your meetings on emails, don't think that success on the email channel will last forever. So multi-channel is always the safest bet, right? Multi-channel, consistency, and what I mentioned from the beginning, curiosity. Always keep testing and exploring new things. The way you're gonna reach accounts, not all accounts are the same, not all geographies are the same. Channels that are performing well today might not be performing well. So this all gives us back to curiosity part, and keep testing and exploring adding maybe new elements in your outreach strategies, such as video or voice prospecting maybe, or something else that can really make you stand out from the crowd. Those are elements that in a long run will keep you a top performer in your SDR team.
All right.
That would be maybe my final thoughts on this subject.
Yep. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for your time. Maybe, we will have another session sometime later on some other topic.
Yes.
All right, then.
Thank you for
people,
having me.
if they want to connect with you, we will be definitely, adding all your links of your social, of your LinkedIn handles in the description, and see you.
Yeah, looking forward to talk with you again. Bye-bye. Thank you for having me once again.